You ever have one of those moments where your heart stops, your brain crashes, and your whole body goes cold, like time just hit the emergency brake? Yeah, that was me the second Jordan walked in. Let me back up a little. Jordan and I had been roommates for about 6 months. We weren't best friends or anything, but we got along well enough. He was one of those effortlessly cool guys, always in joggers and tight tees, gym bags slung over his shoulder, hair always perfectly tousled. The kind of guy who didn't have to try. I, on the other hand, was not that. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't a troll or anything, but I was more of the quietly gay graphic designer who drinks oat milk lattes and hides his crushes type. Jordan was friendly, straight, and way out of my league. The kind of straight that knew you were gay and didn't care, but also made you keep your distance just in case you read too much into his friendliness. Anyway, it was a Friday night. Jordan had said he was going out with some girl from his class, so I figured I had the place to myself for a while. That was my first mistake. I was in my room, the lights dimmed, laptop propped up, headphones in, well, yeah, you get the picture. I was right there, in the zone, when the door suddenly opened behind me. Yo, have you seen? Jordan's voice cut off. I yanked the headphones out like they were on fire, nearly falling off the bed in the process. I was flushed, sweating, scrambling to yank the blanket over myself, even though it was way too late for that. He stood in the doorway, frozen, eyes wide, but not, horrified. Just surprised. Very surprised. And maybe something else? Oh my God, I gasped, voice cracking. Dude, I thought you were out. He didn't answer. Just slowly, deliberately, closed the door behind him. That was when things got weird. Really weird. I expected him to bolt, maybe laugh nervously, mutter some apology, and vanish. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned back against the door, arms crossed, one eyebrow slightly raised. You always do it like that? He asked, his tone casual. Too casual. What? Like that? He gestured toward me. With the laptop on your stomach and the lights off. Feels kinda dramatic, doesn't it? My face was on fire. I pulled the blanket tighter, my heart punching against my ribs. Jordan, I said, trying to sound serious, can we not talk about this? He tilted his head, still not moving. Relax, man. It's not a big deal. Not a big... Are you kidding me? You just walked in on me, on that, and you're acting like we're talking about the weather. He shrugged. You think I've never caught a roommate jerking off before? I wasn't. Okay, maybe I was, but that's not the point. Then he did something that truly broke my brain. He smiled. Not in a mean way, not like he was laughing at me. It was curious. Calm. I just didn't think you'd be into that kind of stuff, he said, his voice quieter now. What kind of... Jordan, why are you still in here? He didn't answer right away. He took a step closer, then another. Not aggressive, just deliberate. I've seen the stuff you watch, he said. You're not exactly subtle. My heart stopped. You've what? I mean, come on. Leaving your tabs open? Your bookmarks are practically a confessional. I didn't know whether to cry or die or crawl into a hole. So you've been spying on me? No, he said quickly. Not spying. Just noticing. He was standing at the edge of my bed now. I could see the way his arms flexed beneath his shirt, the rise and fall of his chest. Look, he said, voice lower now. You were in the middle of something. I can go. But... He paused. I waited, every nerve in my body screaming. I don't really want to. I stared at him. Stared. What the hell did he just say? You don't want to leave? I asked, barely able to get the words out. Jordan didn't move. His hands were in his pockets now, his stance calm, like he was asking me what I wanted on my pizza, not suggesting he stay in the room where he just caught me mid-session. I mean, he said with a shrug, if it makes you uncomfortable, say the word. I'll dip. But he trailed off again, eyes flicking to the blanket over my lap and then back up to my face. But what? I asked, my voice quieter now, something in my chest twisting. But maybe it doesn't make you uncomfortable. I couldn't breathe for a second, because the thing was, he wasn't wrong. I should have been humiliated. I was humiliated. But underneath that, something else. Something stupid and electric and dangerous. Something that made it impossible to look away from the way he was watching me. Like he'd just walked in on something he hadn't expected, but didn't mind. I looked down at my lap, then back up at him. "You're straight," I said, like it was a fact I needed him to confirm again. Jordan gave me a half smile. "Yeah, I've always said that." I blinked. "What does that mean?" He ran a hand through his hair, looking suddenly less sure of himself. "I don't know. Lately, I've just been wondering." "Wondering?" I echoed. "About stuff. About what it would be like. With a guy." He glanced down, then met my eyes again. "With you." My entire body went still. My throat was dry, and my pulse was roaring in my ears. "Jordan?" I said carefully, "You don't have to say that because you feel bad for walking in on me." "I'm not." "Or because you're curious, or bored, or—" He held up a hand. "I'm not saying I know what I want. I'm saying I saw you just now, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to pretend I hadn't seen it. I wanted to stay." The air in the room had changed. It was heavier, warmer, and my stupid body was betraying me, because the longer he stood there, the less embarrassed I felt, and the more I felt something else. "Say something," he said. Quieter now. I swallowed. "You're not messing with me?" He shook his head. "You're not going to laugh and tell your friends I was jerking off to?" "Jesus, no," he said, almost offended. "Why would I ever do that?" "Because you're you," I said, almost laughing. "And I'm me. You've got girls blowing up your phone every weekend. I've got, like, 4 unread messages on Grindr from dudes holding fish in their profile pics." That got a smirk out of him. "I'm not here to mess with you," he said. "I'm here because I'm curious, and because you looked—" He paused, like he wasn't sure he should say it. "You looked hot," I blinked again. "I did?" Jordan shrugged. "Yeah, confident, focused, into it." Now he looked a little flustered. He shifted his weight, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't expect to feel that," he admitted. "But I did, and I figured, worst case, I say something and you kick me out and never talk to me again. Best case." He didn't finish that sentence. He didn't have to. I took a breath, then another. And then I did something even I didn't expect. I reached over and pulled the blanket down, just a bit, just enough to show that I wasn't exactly soft down there. Jordan's eyes flicked to it, then back to mine. He didn't smile. He didn't say anything cocky. He just stepped closer. "You sure?" I asked. He nodded. "You can go right now. We can pretend it never happened." "I don't want to go." And then slowly, he sat down on the edge of my bed, still a little tense, still figuring it out. But there, he looked at me like he was waiting for permission. And I wasn't about to say no. The air between us was tight, stretched like a rubber band, seconds away from snapping. Jordan sat at the edge of my bed like he wasn't totally sure what he was doing, but also like he didn't want to leave either. His eyes kept flicking to my face, then down to the blanket draped over my lap, then back up again, like he was trying to figure out if I was serious or if he was pushing too far. I could tell he was nervous, not in a scared way, just out of his depth. It was kind of wild seeing him like that. This was the guy who flirted with bartenders just to get extra napkins. The guy who once walked shirtless through the living room with zero shame while FaceTiming a girl. And here he was, sitting half a foot from me, dead quiet, barely breathing. "You don't have to do anything," I said, my voice softer now. "You don't have to prove anything. Or perform." Jordan let out a small laugh, quick, sharp, nervous. "Trust me, man, if I was performing, I wouldn't look like this." I looked at him. He looked good, a little flushed, shoulders tense under the fabric of his hoodie. His legs slightly spread, one foot tapping against the floor like his nerves were leaking out of him. I reached out, slowly, and placed my hand on his knee. He didn't flinch. He didn't move at all. He just exhaled, long and slow, like that tiny bit of contact released something he didn't even realize he'd been holding in. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. I don't know how this works." You don't have to, I said. You're not auditioning, you're just here. He looked at me for a long moment, then looked down at where my hand still rested on his leg. Can I? He started, then hesitated. What? His eyes flicked to mine, a question clear in them. Can I kiss you? That was the last thing I expected him to say. I froze. Not because I didn't want to, but because of how careful he sounded. Like this moment mattered. Like he wasn't just acting on impulse or hormones or curiosity. Like this was something real to him. You sure? I asked, barely above a whisper. Jordan leaned in before I even finished the sentence. His lips were softer than I imagined, hesitant at first, just a brush, like he was checking to make sure I wouldn't pull away. I didn't. If anything, I leaned in closer. His hand found my shoulder, tentative but steady, and I felt the tension in his body shift. Like once the kiss started, everything else dropped away. When we pulled back, I opened my eyes and found him already looking at me. That, he said, a little breathless. Yeah, I said. We sat in silence for a second. Then he laughed, shaking his head. That was not how I expected tonight to go. Same, I said. I was literally coming in here to borrow your charger. I grinned. Well, you found something else. Jordan looked down, then rubbed his hands together nervously. I've never done anything like this, he said. I know, but I'm not freaking out. I nodded. I can tell. Actually, he added, I kind of want to see where this goes. My throat tightened. You do? Yeah, he said, quieter now. I don't know what it means, or what I am, or what happens next, but I want to find out. That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to be a one-time thing. It wasn't just curiosity or some fantasy playing out. This was the beginning of something. Something complicated, something messy, but also something that felt real. And when Jordan leaned in to kiss me again, slower this time, with more purpose, I didn't overthink it. I just kissed him back. The second kiss wasn't like the first. The first one had been testing the water, like dipping a toe into something he wasn't sure he wanted to feel. The second one, that was a decision. Not hesitant, not soft, just real. Jordan kissed like he'd been waiting for permission and finally got it, and I let him. His hand was on my neck now, fingers tentative but growing bolder. I could feel the heat of him, his body just inches from mine, the fabric of his jeans brushing against the side of my thigh. I pulled back just long enough to look at him. His pupils were blown wide, chest rising and falling a little faster than usual. Still that hint of nervousness in his eyes, but it was buried under something hungrier now. He licked his lips, then laughed, just once. What? I asked. He shook his head. This is insane. Good insane or bad insane? I don't know, he said. I think good. Just fast. I nodded. We don't have to do anything more tonight. Jordan's hand lingered on my neck. Yeah, he said. But also, I kind of want to. I let that hang for a second. My brain was doing cartwheels, trying to figure out if this was really happening. I'd imagined something like this a million times. Fantasies in the shower. Daydreams when he'd walk around the apartment shirtless. But this felt different. It wasn't just something intimate or a hookup. It was a shift. A crack in something that used to feel solid. You're allowed to want to, I said. Jordan tilted his head. What if I don't know what I'm doing? Then we figure it out, I said. Together. That earned me the smallest, most genuine smile I'd seen from him since we moved in. He sat back, running his hands over his thighs. Okay, but for real, what now? Do we keep going? Do we stop? Are you expecting something? I shook my head. No expectations. No pressure. He looked relieved. Then thoughtful. Then, slowly, he reached for the blanket and tugged it down just a little more, enough to see that I hadn't calmed down one bit since he walked in. His eyes widened slightly. Damn, I laughed. Yeah. He hesitated, then reached out, his fingers wrapped around me. Gentle, curious, like he was touching something breakable. He watched my face as he did it, as if he needed the confirmation that this was okay. I gave him that confirmation with a soft breath and a slight nod. "Still think this is insane?" I asked. Jordan didn't answer right away. He just ran his thumb slowly, carefully, across the most sensitive part of me. And when I gasped, his mouth curled into a grin. "Yeah," he said, "but like, the good kind." We stayed like that for a while. Him touching, me letting him. No rush, no pressure. Just slow exploration and stolen glances and the quiet hum of something brand new being born between us. Eventually, he pulled his hand back, eyes still locked on mine. "I want to keep doing this," he said quietly. "Now?" "No," he said. "I mean, this. Us. Whatever this is." My chest tightened in a way that felt way bigger than anything physical. "Okay," I said. "Me too." He got up to leave a minute later, said he wanted to think. To process. To not mess this up by rushing into something just because we could. But before he opened the door, he turned around. "I meant it," he said. "Me too," I said. And then he was gone, leaving me sitting there, blanket still half off, heart thudding in a way that had nothing to do with what he'd just done, and everything to do with what might come next. He didn't come back that night. I lay there for a while, still buzzing with adrenaline and the feel of his hand on me. Part of me kept waiting for his footsteps, for the sound of the door creaking open again. But the apartment stayed quiet, except for the soft hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the occasional car outside. By morning, I started to doubt it had even happened. Like, maybe I had dreamed the whole thing. Or maybe I wanted it so bad my brain just filled in the blanks. But then, I stepped out into the kitchen around 9 a.m., groggy, hair a mess, t-shirt barely clinging to my shoulder, and there he was, Jordan. Sitting at the table in his gym shorts, eating cereal, scrolling through his phone like it was any other Saturday morning. He looked up when I came in. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then he nodded, like he was greeting me for the first time. "Hey." "Hey," I echoed, grabbing a mug and pretending I wasn't overthinking every breath. I poured coffee, eyes flicking toward him, trying to gauge where he was at. Was he pretending last night didn't happen? Was he regretting it? Was this a "we cool bro" kind of morning? But then he set down his spoon and leaned back in his chair. "You sleep okay?" It was such a simple question, but the way he said it, soft, deliberate, told me everything. "Not really," I admitted. "Too much on my mind." He nodded. "Same." The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was charged, like we were both waiting for the other to make the next move. "So," I said, sitting across from him, "about last night." "Yeah," he said quickly, like he'd been waiting for the opening. "I wanted to talk about that." "Okay." Jordan rubbed the back of his neck, looking almost shy. "I didn't sleep much either. I kept thinking about it. About what we did. About how I felt. I was expecting to wake up and feel freaked out or confused or, like, regretful. And," he looked up at me, "I didn't. I still don't." That hit harder than it should have. I felt something tighten in my chest, like hope trying to break through years of expectation and fear. "I meant what I said," he continued. "I want to figure this out, whatever this is, if you want that too." I blinked. "Yeah," I said. "I do." Jordan nodded, then smiled. Nervous, but real. Cool. Then he took another bite of cereal, like he hadn't just turned my whole morning upside down in the best possible way. For the next hour, we just hung out, made small talk, watched an episode of something dumb on Netflix. It was weirdly normal, but also better, lighter. And then, just before lunch, he surprised me again. We were sitting on the couch, and I was halfway through saying something about my weird neighbor upstairs when he leaned over and kissed me. No warning, no asking this time. Just a soft, confident kiss right on my mouth. And this time, it didn't feel hesitant or careful. It felt like he'd decided. When he pulled back, He didn't say anything. Just looked at me with this little smirk like, yeah, I'm doing this. Then he went back to scrolling TikTok like it was the most casual thing in the world. And somehow, it kind of was. We didn't tell anyone, at least not right away. Whatever was happening between me and Jordan, it was still fragile, new, quiet in a way I didn't want to mess with. We kept it behind the apartment door, in the space between shared glances and subtle touches. It was ours, and it felt kind of perfect like that. But secrets don't stay secrets forever. It started the way these things always do. Someone noticed something. It was Jordan's friend Nate. The kind of guy who always showed up unannounced, always had a Bluetooth speaker clipped to his backpack, and never once knocked before barging in. It was a Wednesday night, and Jordan and I had just finished watching a movie. Nothing heavy, just something to kill a couple hours. At some point during the credits, I'd leaned my head back against the couch, and Jordan had rested his hand on my knee. That alone would have been nothing. Except Nate chose that exact moment to walk in. Yo, Jord, wait! Jordan's hand didn't move. I sat up a little, suddenly too aware of everything. The way the air felt warmer, how close we were sitting, the fact that Jordan wasn't flinching or jumping away. Nate froze in the doorway, keys still in his hand, eyebrows slowly climbing. He said, am I interrupting something? Jordan looked at me, then back at him. Maybe. Nate blinked. Okay, what? Jordan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. We're kind of seeing each other. That was the first time either of us had said it out loud. We are? I asked. Surprised, but not unhappy, he turned toward me, half a grin forming. I mean, unless you don't want to be, I smirked. No, I do. I just didn't know that's what we were calling it. Well, now we are, he said, then turned back to Nate. So yeah, that's what's going on. Nate just stood there, blinking like we'd told him we were starting a two-man circus or something. Then, to my surprise, he shrugged. Cool. Took you long enough. Jordan blinked. Wait, what? Dude, you're not subtle. I've seen the way you look at him. You literally volunteered to do his laundry last month. Jordan scoffed. That was one time. And his laundry was sitting there for 3 days. Exactly, Nate said, grinning. Old Jordan would have just dumped it on the floor and called it a day. He stepped into the apartment, tossing his keys in the bowl by the door like nothing was different. I'm happy for you, he added, heading toward the kitchen. Just don't make out on my side of the couch. Jordan looked over at me, eyebrows raised. Huh. What? That went way better than I thought it would. Same. We shared a look. One of those unspoken, we just crossed another line kinds of looks, and for the rest of the night, something shifted. Not in a bad way. Just more open. Jordan didn't hold back from touching me in front of Nate anymore. Hand on my shoulder. Sitting close. Even leaned over and whispered something in my ear that made me laugh so hard I dropped my water bottle. We were still figuring it out. Still new. Still slow. But it wasn't a secret anymore. And somehow, that made everything feel more real. The moment it got real didn't happen in bed, or on the couch, or even during one of those heavy, late-night conversations. It happened at the grocery store. We were arguing about cereal. I wanted Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Jordan was lobbying hard for some high-fiber monstrosity that tasted like cardboard. It's got protein, he said, holding the box up like it was a trophy. It's got no soul. I shot back, tossing my pick into the cart. He rolled his eyes but smiled. Fine. Your weird sugar squares win this time. And then, like it was the most natural thing in the world, he reached out and ran his hand down my back, fingers brushing just above my waistband. Right there, in the cereal aisle. No one was around. Still, it caught me off guard. I froze. Not because I didn't like it, but because it hit me in a different way than anything else we'd done. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't an experiment. This was a boyfriend thing. I looked at him, and he was still smirking, oblivious to the emotional nuclear bomb he'd just set off in my chest. And that's when I realized something terrifying. I was catching feelings. Like, real feelings. Not just, my hot roommate touched me and now I can't think straight feelings. These were the kind that settled in quietly, that stayed. The kind that didn't go away when the clothes came back on. That night, after we put the groceries away and the apartment was dark again, I couldn't sleep. Jordan was already passed out, sprawled across his bed like always, one arm under his pillow, shirtless, hair messed up from the shower. I stood in the doorway to his room, just watching for a second. Then he stirred. "You good?" he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. I hesitated. "Yeah." "You sure?" I nodded. "Can I come in?" He shifted over without even opening his eyes. "Always." I climbed into bed next to him. We'd done this a couple of times now, when he was tired, when the vibe was soft, when we didn't feel like sleeping alone. It wasn't always sexual. Sometimes it was just quiet comfort. But this time, I didn't lie on the edge like usual. I rolled toward him, wrapped an arm around his waist, pressed my forehead to his shoulder, and after a long pause, he reached back and rested his hand on mine. "You were thinking again," he said softly. "Yeah. About us?" "Yeah." He turned a little, not fully facing me, but enough that I could hear the sleep fade from his voice. "You regretting this?" "No," I said quickly. "Not at all." "But?" I swallowed. "I just don't know what we're doing." He was quiet for a long beat. Then, "We're doing what feels good. Is that enough?" He didn't answer right away. Then he pulled my hand up, kissed my knuckles, softly, almost absent-mindedly. "For now," he whispered. "Yeah, it is." I wanted more. I didn't say it, but I felt it so hard it made my chest ache. I wanted something real, something defined, something that could survive outside this apartment, past these quiet nights and shared beds. But I didn't push. Not yet. Because even if he wasn't ready to say the word, I could feel it in how he held me that night. Whatever this was, it mattered. The next morning, the sunlight poured in through the blinds, golden and warm, hitting Jordan's face as he slept peacefully beside me. I could see the faint curve of his lips, the little rise and fall of his chest. I felt my heart twist and ache all at once, like it had finally found a rhythm that fit with someone else's. I didn't want to move, didn't want to wake him. Not yet. Not when this felt so delicate, so new, so perfect. But of course, the moment I breathed a little too heavily, he stirred. "Morning," he said, voice still thick with sleep, eyes half closed but smiling. "Morning," I whispered. He turned toward me, sitting up slowly, tasseled hair falling into his eyes. "So last night," he started, scratching the back of his neck, nervous like he'd done a million times before. I laughed softly. "It's okay. You don't have to explain." "No, I mean us. I don't want this to just be fun. I want to know we're on the same page." I felt my chest tighten. Finally, the words I'd been scared to say. "I want that too," I admitted. "I want whatever this is to be real. To be us." He paused. His eyes searched mine for a second, and then he smiled, the kind of full, open, warm smile that made me forget how to breathe. "Good. Because I feel the same." And that was it. That tiny, perfect moment where everything finally clicked into place. No games. No accidental touches. No silent, late-night experiments. Just us. Two people who had stumbled into something unexpected, messy, electric, and real, and were ready to see where it could go. He leaned in, slow, confident, and kissed me again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I wrapped my arms around him, holding him as close as I could, feeling like somehow the whole world had narrowed down to just the two of us. When we finally pulled back, he rested his forehead against mine. "We'll figure it out," he said softly. "Together." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Together." And for the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. Because the guy who had walked in on me, the guy the first thought would never understand or care, had stayed, had closed the door, had chosen me. And I knew, without a doubt, I'd do the same for him.